I pushed open the heavy oak door to the private dining room at La Scala, a smile already on my face. Amelia had whispered about a special surprise for our 10th anniversary. My heart felt light. I'd left work early, picked up the specific peonies she loved, and even wore the cufflinks she'd given me 5 years ago. The scene that unfolded stole the air from my lungs. A long table, draped in white linen, glittered under a crystal chandelier. Around it sat 24 familiar faces. My brother Sam, my best friend from college Leo, my colleagues from the design agency, and, my stomach dropped, Mr. Henderson, my boss, looking deeply uncomfortable. Confetti littered the floor like colorful snow. At the head of it all stood Amelia, radiant in a dress the color of fresh blood, a champagne flute held aloft. Her smile was wide, brilliant, and utterly false. It was a mask. The room's chatter died as I stood frozen in the doorway. "Everyone, he's here," she announced, her voice a bright, carrying melody that felt sharp as glass. The man of the hour. Or should I say, the man of the last 10 very long hours. A ripple of nervous laughter moved through the crowd. She tapped her glass with a manicured nail. The ping silenced the room completely. "I wanted to do something real tonight," she began, her tone shifting to something intimate, confessional. "Not just a boring dinner. A true tribute. To us." What followed was not a tribute. It was a public autopsy. She mocked my adorably predictable routine, my obsession with saving for retirement, my love for quiet weekends. "I felt like I'd been living with a friendly ghost," she said, a sad pout on her lips. "A ghost who pays the mortgage but left my soul empty." She spoke of loneliness, of stifled dreams, of the crushing weight of my adequate love. Then, with a magician's flourish, she produced a thick, legal-sized envelope from beneath the table. "So, my love, for our anniversary, I got you a gift that matches our future." She extended it toward me. My legs carried me forward on autopilot. I took it. The paper felt heavy. I pulled out the contents. In bold, official-looking type at the top, it read, "Petition for dissolution of marriage." It was a prop, filled with fake legalese, but the words burned my vision. I looked up. The guests were statues, their smiles gone, replaced by a mixture of pity and horror. Sam was staring at his plate. Mr. Henderson was studying his wine. In the devastating silence, my eyes found Amelia's. Behind the performed sadness, I saw it, a glint of pure, chilling satisfaction. She had staged a masterpiece, and my shattered face was the proof of her success. I have no memory of walking out. One moment I was the spectacle in the center of the room, the next I was in the driver's seat of my car, the world outside the windshield a smeared watercolor of city lights. The steering wheel was cold and solid under my hands, the only real thing. Her words replayed on a vicious loop inside my skull. Asterisk ghost. Adequate. Empty. Asterisk the peonies lay wilted on the passenger seat. The suit I'd chosen so carefully felt like a clown's costume, itchy and absurd. I ripped the silk tie from my neck and threw it onto the floor. As I struggled out of the jacket, something crackled in the inner breast pocket. I pulled it out. A receipt, crumpled and forgotten, from the Grand Hotel bar. 2 glasses of Chateau Lafite Reserve, $280, plus tip. Paid by our joint platinum card. The time stamp was 9:47 p.m. The date was Wednesday, 2 nights ago. I had been home that entire evening, grinding on a last-minute logo revision for a client. I'd eaten cold pizza at my desk. A deep, physical sickness rolled through me, starting in my gut and spreading icy fingers to my limbs. The public humiliation was a grenade blast, shocking and brutal. This was the discovery of a hidden tripwire, proof the attack was planned from within my own camp. The chill in the car had nothing to do with the air conditioning. With hands that wouldn't quite steady, I tossed the receipt aside and grabbed my phone. The glow of the screen lit my face, pale and hollow-eyed, in the dark reflection of the window. My thumb hovered over the icon for our banking app. The first seed of a terrible truth was taking root. The days that followed passed in a muffled, gray fog. I told Amelia I'd caught a terrible flu, that the stress of the joke had wiped me out. She accepted this with a distracted nod, barely looking up from her phone, already busy crafting her healing journey posts from the spare bedroom she called her content studio. The sickness was real, but it was a sickness of the spirit. While she filmed snippets about reclaiming her power, I descended into a shadow world of numbers and statements. At my home office desk, with the door locked, I became a forensic accountant of my own demise. I pulled up 12 months of bank records, my designer's eye, trained to see patterns and anomalies, now turned on the story of my own life. The pattern that emerged was a stark, damning ledger. Here, a $512.87 charge for the Lavender Inn, on a Tuesday night when her Instagram story showed a candlelit bath at home. There, a $340 dinner at Il Piacere for two, billed on an evening she'd told me she was at a Women in Business networking event. A relentless series of $200 ATM withdrawals, always on Friday afternoons, like clockwork. The narrative was devastatingly clear. I was the foundation. The steady, reliable, boring bedrock that quietly held everything up, paying the mortgage, funding the lifestyle. She was the sparkling, ambitious tower built on top, always straining for more height, more attention, a better story to sell. The restaurant ambush wasn't a spontaneous outburst. It was a calculated, strategic launch. Her big premiere. And I had been the unwitting, uncredited supporting actor whose only role was to be publicly destroyed. I was sitting in that same chair, staring at a spreadsheet that mapped betrayal in cold, hard numbers, when my phone buzzed. It was Leo. His voice, usually so easygoing, was tight with discomfort. "Mark, man, about La Scala. I don't even know what to say." That was. I've never seen anything like it. He took a deep breath. "Listen, this might be nothing, and I hate to add to it, but I saw something. The week before. I was at that little French bistro by the park, the one with the blue awning." My own breath stilled in my chest. Amelia was there. She wasn't alone. He paused, and the silence was heavy. She was with a guy. Older, maybe late 40s. Silver hair, really good suit. Looked like a politician or a news anchor. They were in a corner booth. Leaning in close. He was holding her hand across the table, and she was laughing that laugh. You know the one. I did know the one. It was a laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in years. A numbness, colder than the flu, spread from my core outward. Leo, hearing my silence, rushed on. I snapped a picture. "It's garbage, man." I was across the street and zoomed all the way in. "But, you should see it." A second later, my screen illuminated with the incoming image. It was grainy, pixelated, but unmistakable. There was Amelia, her face tilted up, glowing with a genuine, unguarded joy I desperately missed. And there was the man, handsome, polished, gazing at her with an intensity that was intimate and possessive. A complete stranger. The public humiliation now had a private audience. It had a partner. A face, slick and confident, stared back at me. But I still had no name. The digital receipt was a clue. The financial pattern was evidence. But I needed the source code. Amelia was paranoid about her phone, guarding it like a state secret, but she was careless with older systems. I remembered, years ago, when she'd wept over losing a phone full of vacation photos. I'd set up an automatic cloud backup for her on a service she never used again, calling it her digital vault. She'd used a simple password, a childhood pet's name and our first apartment number. A desperate, long-shot idea formed. I logged into the service's website. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. And there it was, untouched for years, Amelia's vault. I clicked. I braced myself for a gallery of intimate photos with the silver-haired stranger. What I found was, in its own way, infinitely worse. Neatly organized folders with clean, professional labels, brand vision, audience growth strategy, Q3, Q4 content calendar. I felt a surreal disconnect. This was my wife's mind, laid bare like a business plan. I opened a folder titled Project Phoenix. Inside were mood boards with aspirational photos of women gazing at sunsets, paired with phrases like empowered exit, Phoenix rising, and from stagnation to radiance. My stomach churned. Then I saw the storyboard PDFs. I opened one labeled Master Narrative Arc. It broke down a story into phases. Finally, I opened a document simply called Script_Scene1_Final. The title page read, Project Phoenix, The Catalyst, Public Unmasking. Below were bullet points, location. Upscale restaurant. Audience, must include his social and professional circle for max impact and isolation. Her dialogue, focus on emotional neglect, financial boredom, lost years. Goal, elicit visible shock/hurt from subject. Capture reaction for B-roll. It was all there. My destruction, my pain, pre-written, pre-visualized, optimized for engagement. I wasn't her husband. I was the subject. The villain in her hero's journey, a character written out of her story. I couldn't contain it any longer. I waited for her in the living room that night, the printed script lying on the glass coffee table like an exhibit in a courtroom. When she floated in, humming some upbeat pop song, I pointed a trembling finger at the paper. The catalyst? My voice was a low, dangerous rasp. This was all a scene. I was your B-roll? She glanced at the printout. For a fleeting, beautiful second, genuine surprise, and then fear, flashed in her eyes. Then, her public persona slammed back into place. She shrugged, a cool, dismissive motion. It's brand architecture, Mark. The personal is the professional. I'm building an empowerment platform for women stuck in lifeless dynamics. You were the perfect archetype. Reliable. Predictable. The audience will see themselves. The clinical, detached analysis of our life, of me, was the ultimate violation. The dam of my control shattered. You ruined me. For clout? For a platform? I'll tell everyone. I'll show them this script. I was on my feet, shouting, tears of furious betrayal blurring my vision. She didn't recoil. Instead, a small, calculated smile touched her lips. Slowly, deliberately, she pulled her phone from her purse. She tapped the screen, swiped, and pointed it at me. The small red recording dot glowed like a malevolent eye. Her voice was calm, clear, perfect for the microphone. Please, show them. Show everyone this anger. This is exactly what they need to see. Confronting the real threat. This is premium content. I stood there, my rage turning to ash in my mouth, the air leaving my lungs. I had just handed her the next chapter of my own vilification. Her video dropped at 9:01 a.m. the next morning, expertly timed for the morning scroll. The title was surgical, The Mask Slips, confronting my husband's rage. It opened with soft, melancholic piano music and a close-up of Amelia's tearful but brave face. Sharing this is the hardest thing I've ever done, she whispered. Then, a jarring cut to the footage from our living room. It was expertly edited. My face, red and contorted, was looped. My shouts were clipped to sound aggressive and unhinged, removed from any context. Her calm, sorrowful voiceover wove a tale of a woman finally finding the courage to speak her truth, only to be met with terrifying volatility. The algorithm loved it. The comments were a torrent of fury and support. You are so brave. This is abuse. Run, sis, and don't look back. They flooded every online space I owned. My professional portfolio site was bombarded with one-star reviews calling me a monster. My social media became a cesspool of hate. My phone buzzed incessantly, a constant, angry hum. A text from my cousin Lisa: "Mark, we saw the video. We're in shock. Is there something you need to tell us?" An email from my biggest client, subject line: "Urgent project timeline. Given the significant negative publicity now associated with your name, we must regrettably pause our collaboration indefinitely." My career, my reputation, my very identity were being dismantled in real time, brick by digital brick, to the sound of millions cheering on the demolition. Ms. Vance's office was a haven of hushed order, a world away from the digital storm. Dark wood, soft green light from a desk lamp, the faint scent of old books and lemon polish. She listened without a single interruption as I spilled the saga, my voice cracking occasionally as I slid the printouts, the script, the bank statements, Leo's grainy photo, across the vast, polished surface of her desk. When I finished, empty and breathless, she steepled her fingers and regarded me with keen, intelligent eyes. "Your first and most important instruction," she said, her voice low, steady, and impossibly firm, "is to not engage. Do not comment. Do not post. Do not defend. Every word you type, every tear you shed on camera, is more raw material for her narrative. She is selling a story. We will not fight her story with another story. We will bury her story with facts. Facts are boring. Facts are tedious. And facts are unassailable." She outlined a cold, meticulous strategy: immediate financial separation, forensic documentation of everything, and strategic silence. Let her narrative run its course. Let her build her castle as high as she wants on the foundation of those lies. The higher it goes, the more spectacular the collapse will be. Walking out of her office into the cool afternoon air, I felt a fundamental shift. The hot, helpless, directionless anger began to cool, to condense, to harden into something new and formidable, a cold, patient resolve. I was no longer a victim. I was a plaintiff. And I had a general. The message arrived on a social platform I'd joined years ago for a design conference and never used. It was a direct reply to my silent, enigmatic #TheFullStory post. "I believe your timeline," it began. "The man in the photo is Anthony Wright. He brands himself as a high-performance relationship architect. He was my husband." The sender's name was Julia. Her words sent an electric jolt of vindication through my nervous system. She explained that Anthony and Amelia had connected in an exclusive, high-dollar online mastermind for influencers seeking rapid growth. Their specific scheme was a grift they'd refined: create a sensational, public narrative of personal betrayal and triumphant rebirth, always casting the ex-partner as the villain, to build a massive, emotionally invested audience almost overnight. Then, monetize that trauma through expensive group coaching programs, sponsored content, and even shopping for reality TV deals. "They're emotional con artists," Julia wrote. "You're not the first subject, Mark. You're just the one with the most to lose, so you're their biggest play." She said she had kept records, email chains, Venmo transactions, even draft scripts and audience analytics from her own ordeal. She was willing to share it all. She asked for a secure, anonymous way to send the files. My hands, which had trembled with panic for weeks, now shook with a focused, furious hope. I created an encrypted file-sharing link, my fingers flying over the keys. The puzzle of my destruction was finally getting its missing, ugly pieces. Julia's files were the Rosetta Stone that translated my nightmare into a comprehensible, cold-blooded business plan. They were email chains between Amelia and Anthony, with subject lines like Project Phoenix, Phase 2 Execution, and Q4 Monetization Pipeline. In them, I was referred to by a code name, the Foundation. The restaurant ambush was analyzed in a post-mortem. Catalyst event achieved 9 out of 10. Subject's reaction was perfect: visible shock, humiliation. Footage is gold. Audience inclusion strategy worked. Professional contacts present ensured immediate real-world consequences for subject, deepening his isolation. My anticipated hurt and anger were categorized as villain reaction footage, crucial for audience alignment and future contrast edits. They plotted a 12-week, from betrayal to breakthrough, group coaching program, pricing it at $4,999 per person, with an upsell for VIP 1-on-1 intensive at $15,000. They discussed selling the life rights to their story to a streaming platform. The most chilling exchange came from Anthony. The foundation is stable, respected, no skeletons. His pristine reputation makes the fall more dramatic. His confusion and pain will be your rocket fuel. The audience will invest deeply in your redemption arc because they will truly believe you escaped a monster of quiet oppression. I printed every single page. The stack of paper was heavy, a tangible weight of their calculated, soulless malice. I was not a person with feelings. I was a plot device, a narrative function. My love, my trust, my life, all of it was just raw material for their content mill. Acting on Ms. Vance's precise instructions, I moved with the silent, efficient grace of a special ops mission. I met with my banker and a forensic accountant. Our joint accounts were frozen, then surgically separated. My freelance income, the lifeblood of my independence, was rerouted to a new, private account under a discreet LLC my lawyer set up. The forensic dive into our finances revealed the full, breathtaking extent of the bleed. Over the past 10 months, Amelia had authorized over $38,000 in transfers to an entity named Right Dynamics LLC, listed as payments for brand synergy consulting, audience growth strategy, and strategic partnership development. The day after the financial freeze took effect, my phone lit up like a frenzied strobe light. Missed call. Missed call. Voicemail. Text message alert. I played the last voicemail. Amelia's voice was a sharp, frantic shard of glass, all pretense of calm gone. Mark. What is this? What did you do? My card was declined at Saks. I was humiliated. Are you trying to starve me? To punish me? You call me back right now, you hear me? Right now. The sheer, untamed panic in her tone, the loss of control, was the first sweet, satisfying sound I'd heard in months. I didn't savor it long. I deleted the message. Then I blocked her number. My weapon was silence. I did not post a tearful rebuttal video. I did not write a long, justifying thread. On my professional Twitter and Instagram, the platforms now crawling with her followers and the merely curious, I posted a single, elegantly minimalist graphic. It was a simple, clean, horizontal timeline. The first entry was a high-contrast photo of the crumpled Grand Hotel receipt, the date and the amount for 2 glasses of wine circled in a stark, red digital marker. The caption beneath it read, Entry 001, the first anomaly. A night I was home. Hashtag the full story. I pinned it to the top of my profiles. Then, I logged off. I did not check the responses. The reaction, as Ms. Vance predicted, was instant and volcanic. Her loyalists flooded the comments, fake. How pathetic. Trying to distract from your abuse. But a new, curious sound began to rise beneath the noise. Neutrals and internet sleuths started asking questions. Hold on. Why would he have a receipt from a bar he says he wasn't at? That's a pricey drink for one person. This feels like a clue in a mystery novel. For the first time since the restaurant doors opened, the narrative was no longer entirely, unquestioningly hers. I had introduced a crack of doubt. They responded with a live stream, a classic doubling down tactic. Amelia and Anthony sat side by side on a pristine white sofa, a curated backdrop of lush, fake monstera plants behind them. They addressed my sad, pathetic attempt to twist the narrative and gaslight my audience. Anthony, oozing a slick, talk show host confidence, called my timeline, the digital scribblings of a desperate man facing the consequences of his own emotional neglect. But the pressure of the growing scrutiny showed. Anthony, trying to sound authoritative and in control, made a critical slip. My partner and I have meticulously documented this pattern of manipulation for months, he stated firmly, gesturing broadly toward Amelia. He caught himself a half-second too late, a micro-expression of pure panic flashing in his eyes before he smoothed it over. My emotional partner, should say, in this shared healing journey. The correction was clumsy, obvious. The live chat, once a seamless river of heart emojis and queen comments, now churned with doubt. Did he just say partner like it's a business? Why did he correct himself? Who is this guy? He's giving me used car salesman vibes. Something feels off about this whole thing. The flawless, seamless facade they presented had developed a visible, hairline crack. And the audience, ever hungry for a deeper drama, was pressing their eyes to it. Process servers are professionals, and they excel at finding people. They located Amelia at her favorite ultra-hip cafe, The Daily Grind, where she was in the middle of filming a mindful morning and gratitude vlog. The camera, propped on her table, captured the polite interruption, the plain manila envelope being offered. It captured her initial, slightly annoyed but still camera-ready smile as she took it, thinking it was perhaps fan mail or a PR package. It captured the smile freezing, then crumbling like wet sand as her eyes scanned the first lines: Superior Court, petition for dissolution of marriage, and the listed causes of action. Fraudulent misrepresentation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and dissipation of marital assets. Paper-clipped as Exhibit B was a carefully redacted page from the Project Phoenix script, the heading still visible. What the camera captured next was not content. It was raw, unfiltered human collapse. A guttural, wounded animal sound escaped her. Her face contorted, tears and mascara erupting in real time. She screamed at the server, "Get away from me!" Before dissolving into heaving, snotty sobs, her hands clawing at her perfectly styled hair. A patron at a nearby table, smartphone already in hand, captured the entire, spectacular, unglamorous meltdown in crystal clear 4K. Within an hour, the clip, #Amelia Meltdown, was viral, racing alongside #The Full Story. The meticulously curated image of the serene, empowered survivor had evaporated, revealing the frantic, cornered schemer beneath. Rats possess a keen instinct for sinking ships. Anthony Wright's lawyer contacted Ms. Vance less than 48 hours after the cafe meltdown video saturated the internet. His offer was nakedly transactional, full, sworn affidavit testimony stating that the entire concept, the detailed scripting, and the emotional manipulation framework were primarily Amelia's brainchild. He would provide all financial records proving she had approached him, soliciting his expertise in narrative-driven audience building. In exchange, he demanded complete immunity from our civil lawsuit and a binding guarantee that his name would be minimized, if not entirely absent, from any public statements I might make in the future. He's pivoting to the misguided consultant defense, Ms. Vance relayed to me, a note of dry disgust in her professional tone. Her own investigator had already discovered that Anthony was in active talks with another aspiring, wellness influencer, for a new venture tentatively titled Renaissance. The irony was not lost on me. Amelia, the master narrative crafter, had been abruptly and callously written out of her own partner's next chapter. Her kingdom was crumbling, and her prince had fled the castle. I updated the timeline website. This time, I added 3 new entries. Entry 002. A clean screenshot from a spreadsheet, rows of charges to boutique hotels and fine dining restaurants, the dates highlighted in yellow, many corresponding to nights she had given me specific, verifiable alibis. Entry 003, a text box stating, sworn eyewitness testimony, source anonymized observed subject with unidentified male and intimate, non-professional setting 1 week prior to Catalyst event. Entry 004. A screenshot of the cloud storage folder, clearly showing the directory path and the file names, project_phoenix_master_plan.pdf and script_scene1_final. The new caption was simple and damning, the narrative was written in advance. #the full story. This time, the internet's collective detective force swung into action. People created side-by-side comparisons, overlapping the hotel charge dates with her Instagram posts from those same days claiming she was somewhere else. Commentary channels with millions of subscribers dissected the phrasing, unidentified mail, and the implications. The story transformed in the public eye, shifting from a messy divorce drama into a potentially orchestrated fraud. Legitimate news outlets published short, cautious pieces with headlines like, "Social media drama sparks questions of pre-planned story arc." The ground beneath Amelia's carefully constructed world was not just shifting, it was breaking apart in a seismic rift. The consequences were swift, financial, and socially absolute. The eco-friendly activewear brand that had been sending her free monthly packages emailed to pause our collaboration pending brand alignment review. Her influencer management company, Talent Spark, sent a terse letter amicably terminating their contract, citing reputational misalignment. Her follower count, that sacred metric of her worth, entered a dizzying freefall, shedding tens of thousands of real, engaged people daily, leaving behind a barren landscape of bot accounts and drama-addicted trolls. The close friends from the restaurant, the ones she'd called her tribe and chosen family, stopped answering her calls and texts. Their social media comments under her posts dried up. I drove by our, now my, old house one evening. The "for sale" sign stood like a tombstone in the manicured front yard. Through the large, expensive picture window, I could see a single, lonely light burning in the upstairs bedroom. No movement. No ring lights. No camera on a tripod. Just a silent, empty stage after the final, disastrous performance, the sole remaining actress staring at the ruins of her set. She came to the door of my modest, new apartment looking like a ghost of her former self. Her hair was pulled into a messy, simple ponytail. She wore no makeup, her face pale and drawn, with dark smudges under her eyes. She was performing a new, desperate role, the penitent, the manipulated victim. "Mark, please," she whispered, her voice raspy, tears welling with impressive speed. "You have to let me explain. It was him. Anthony. He groomed me. He said this was how all the big creators did it. He said it was the only way to build something of my own, to not just be your accessory." She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Her skin was cold and clammy. My phone, set to audio record, was a silent witness in the pocket of my sweatpants. She poured out a corrupted version of the truth, one where she was a naive artist seduced by a slick predator, not an equal architect of malice. The script, the emails, it was just business to him. Cold numbers. I got swept up. I was lost. I never, ever stopped loving you. This wasn't me. She confessed to the planning, the financial transfers, the intentional isolation strategy, all while painting herself as a hapless pawn in Anthony's game. When her tearful monologue finally sputtered to a halt, I gently but firmly removed my hand from her grasp. I looked at her, seeing not my wife, but the stranger who had plotted my destruction. "My lawyer has all the evidence, Amelia. Every email. Every transfer. This conversation. It's over. Goodbye." I closed the door softly on her stunned, crumbling face. The final, desperate performance had been her least convincing, and I had the master recording. Faced with an utterly indefensible legal position, the documented emails, the forensic financial trail, Anthony's self-serving but damning testimony, and her own recorded, self-incriminating confession, Amelia's legal counsel advised immediate, unconditional surrender. The settlement agreement Ms. Vance drafted was brutal in its comprehensive fairness. Amelia waived all claims to spousal support or alimony, past, present, or future. She received a one-time, lump sum payment representing a minuscule fraction of our net marital assets, after the substantial debts she had unilaterally incurred, including the $38,000 to Right Dynamics, were first paid off from the marital pot. A stringent, multi-page non-disclosure and non-disparagement agreement prohibited her from ever discussing me, our marriage, the divorce, or the circumstances surrounding it in any public or private forum, in perpetuity. The key, beautiful clause was that the NDA was asymmetrical. It bound only her. I was under no such restriction. I was free to speak my truth, whenever and however I chose. I signed the final papers in the serene quiet of Ms. Vance's office. There was no dramatic soundtrack, no triumphant cry. Just the soft, definitive scratch of my pen on paper, the weighty thud of the notary's embossing seal, and the quiet click of a file folder being closed. It was over. I invested in proper tools, a capable DSLR camera, a broadcast-quality microphone, professional editing software. For weeks, I worked late into the nights, not driven by venom, but by the meticulous focus of a craftsman assembling a crucial presentation. I launched a YouTube channel with a single video. Its title was The Blunt, Undeniable Truth: My Wife Humiliated Me Publicly. I made her regret it nationally. It was a 40-minute documentary, paced like a thriller. I spoke directly to the camera, my demeanor calm, steady, a guide walking the audience through a gallery of evidence. On screen, I displayed each piece like an exhibit. The hotel receipt, the annotated bank statements, the Project Phoenix script pages, the redacted email excerpts, the official divorce filing, and finally, the audio waveform of her doorstep confession, her own voice filling the speakers, damning and clear. I did not raise my voice. I did not shed a tear. I simply presented, explained, connected the dots with clear, logical narration. The emotional power came not from my performance, but from the chilling, undeniable nature of the facts themselves. The truth, I had learned, was the most powerful protagonist of all. The video detonated across the internet with the force of a cultural earthquake. Major commentary channels, with subscriber bases in the tens of millions, reacted in real time, their hosts' jaws going slack as the story unfolded from a tale of marital strife into an epic of digital fraud. News sites and mainstream media outlets ran analytical pieces dissecting the new frontier of reputation theft and the monetization of personal trauma in the influencer age. Hashtags like #TheFullStory, #PhoenixScam, and #DigitalGrift trended nationally for days. My inbox, once a chamber of horrors, flooded again. This time with tens of thousands of messages of support, solidarity, and gratitude from people who had faced similar manipulations or who were simply relieved to see a lie so thoroughly dismantled. The court of public opinion, which she had so deftly weaponized, now reconvened and delivered a unanimous, thunderous verdict. The sympathy and outrage were now a directed tsunami, and it was crashing over the person who had, in fact, been telling the truth all along. The fallout was comprehensive and merciless. Amelia's name became an internet shorthand for fraudulent victimhood, a permanent cautionary tale. Any feeble attempt she made to rebrand, to start a authentic wellness journey or a minimalist living blog, was instantly and universally met with a flood of comments simply posting the link to my video. Anthony Wright's high-performance relationship architect facade vaporized. His scheduled keynote speeches were cancelled. His publisher quietly remaindered his upcoming book. In a spectacular, mutually assured destruction spiral, they turned on each other publicly, posting vicious, lengthy social media stories full of leaked private texts, accusations of financial theft, and claims of emotional manipulation, violating their own legal agreements and painting each other as the toxic, greedy partners they truly were. A prominent celebrity gossip site ran the definitive, glib headline, "The Phoenix Flop." Fake influencer and gurus get-rich scheme ends in mutual assured destruction. I decided to channel the platform I never wanted into a force for good. With the help of a few trusted, ethically minded colleagues, I founded a small nonprofit initiative called Verify First. We created clear, accessible online resources, guides on digital literacy, how to identify emotional manipulation tactics in media, understanding deepfakes, and knowing your legal rights regarding online defamation. I began giving talks, not as an internet celebrity, but as a first-hand witness to a new kind of crime. The audiences were not there for drama, they were parents, teachers, young professionals, genuinely worried about the increasingly blurred lines between truth and narrative online. Turning my profound pain into a practical tool for protection gave the entire harrowing experience a profound, healing purpose. It was no longer the story of Mark versus Amelia. It was about arming others with flashlights before they entered the dark. A year later, my life had settled into a rhythm that was calm, full, and authentic in a way I had almost forgotten was possible. My design business, cleansed of the scandal, thrived on merit alone. I had met Claire, a soft-spoken archivist with a wit as dry as old parchment and a heart of steadfast kindness. We built something gentle and real, brick by patient brick, with honesty as our only foundation. One crisp autumn afternoon, a handwritten letter arrived on heavy, cream-colored stationery. The return address was Amelia's mother, Eleanor, a woman of old-world grace for whom I had always held affection. Her words were steeped in a profound, maternal shame and sorrow. She apologized for her daughter's unfathomable cruelty, thanked me for my uncommon restraint and decency in not pursuing total annihilation in the press or the courts, and expressed a hope that I had found peace. I sat at my kitchen table, sunlight streaming in, and read it 3 times. Finally, I took out my own good stationery and wrote a brief, simple reply. Dear Eleanor, thank you for your kind and thoughtful letter. I have, indeed, found my peace. I hold no hatred in my heart. I genuinely hope Amelia finds her own path to honesty and peace, wherever that may lead her. With best wishes, Mark. I stamped it and mailed it the same day. As the envelope disappeared into the blue mailbox, I felt a final, quiet release, like a deep breath held for too long. The cycle of retribution and bitterness was definitively, peacefully broken. The interview was for a prestigious Sunday evening news magazine program, known for its long-form, thoughtful conversations. The journalist, a woman with a reputation for intellectual rigor and empathy, leaned forward in her chair. After that incredible journey, she asked, her voice gentle, through the devastating public humiliation and then the very public vindication, do you feel, in the end, that you got your revenge? I smiled then, a genuine, easy expression that felt wholly natural, born of hard-won peace. I looked past her, directly into the camera's unblinking eye, speaking not to her, but to anyone out there who had ever felt small and powerless against a towering, elegant lie. Revenge, I said, my voice steady and clear, was never the point. The point was always the restoration of truth. She built an intricate, beautiful house of cards on a very public stage. All I did was open a